I'm very excited on this Theology Thursday to have a special guest. That would be Cliff Sims, former special assistant to President Trump, also a deputy director of national intelligence. So he helped to oversee and run 18 agencies of the U.S. government, and he lived to tell the tale. That's very impressive. And he's got a new book out. The book is called The Darkness Has Not Overcome, Lessons on Faith and Politics from Inside the Halls of Power. Cliff, thank you for coming on the show.
Michael, thanks for having me. I'm a little disappointed you didn't sing at the beginning of the. Maybe it's the voice is not going to allow that to happen.
It's going to be tough. Usually, I try to get a little gospel like hoo hoo, but because of my voice now, I'm going to have to save it for a little I don't know, Marvin Gaye or something, a little Barry White later on. Cliff, your book is about faith, even though you've had this career in government and in the poking around the deep recesses of the deep state. Somehow that's brought you closer to faith. In my experience, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush. I know there are great guys who work for the intelligence community. Some of the ones that I have come into contact with seem to me to be total stone cold sociopath killers who don't give a whit about faith ever. So I am not all of them, many I assume are good people. Okay. But for you did return to faith. So what was that process like?
Well, I think it strengthened my faith in a lot of ways and revealed a lot about my own character. One of the things that I realized is I was a lot more susceptible to the allure of power than I may have otherwise had a reason to realize in my life. And when you don't really have power, you don't get tested by it. And so I did get tested by it in ways that were unexpected and had to wrestle with my own shortcomings in those ways. And so really coming out of government and wrestling with what that period of my life meant for me compelled me. I started journaling about it and thinking about the lessons that I had learned from it and realized a lot of these lessons that I've learned actually would apply to anybody's life, no matter what they're going through. And so what I set out to do was basically write what I would call like a political junkie's dream devotional book. And so it's got all these behind the scenes stories from the government, the White House, Air Force One, the CIA, the president's nuclear football, inside the doomsday bunkers. I mean, you name it. But each of those scenes jump into a biblical takeaway that could apply to anybody's life, whether they're struggling with anxiety and depression or walking through the fire or trying to figure out what dreams they should pursue in their life, or whether it's even in God's plan to pursue our dreams at all. All these things we wrestle with as people, I try to get into in this book.
I want to zoom in a little bit on that temptation for power, because I think of our Lord in the desert being tempted by the devil, and there are three temptations. The temptation to turn rocks into bread, the temptation of the appetite. This is sometimes it's divided up into the temptations of the three eras of our lives, When you're a little kid, you're tempted by the appetite before you're really educated. That's what gets you. Then there's the temptation to fly, the temptation for fantasy, the temptation for immortality, I guess, to jump off the roof and just be carried out and fly all over. But then there's the temptation to power. And this is the temptation that gets people in the heart of their careers. Look over at all the kingdoms of the world. All this can be yours if you just bow down to me. Specifically, what does that look like? I mean, you're in a big position in government. I guess you could lord that over people and make people do what you want them to do. But working in such a senior role in the White House and then overseeing the intelligence agencies, what kind of power is even on offer?
Yeah. Well, I think I would actually zoom out even further and say that the temptation to this power, and C.S. Lewis calls it the temptation for the inner ring, exist all throughout our lives. So, when you're in school, you want to sit at the cool kids table at lunch. There's social power in that. When you're in college, you want to be in the good fraternity and sorority. In the Trump White House, there was the official org chart, which looked like many other White Houses with the chief of staff at the top, and it kind of flowed down from there. But the unofficial, I would say the real org chart was Trump at the middle, and anyone who he knew personally spoke off of him. And so in the Trump White House, we would do almost anything we could to be and remain one of those spokes. And I remember before I was deputy director of national intelligence, early in the White House when I was a communications aide, when I would walk with the president from the residence over to the Oval Office in the morning, waiting for him would be the CIA director, the director of national intelligence, his intelligence briefer, the chief of staff, the vice president. I would get ushered out of the Oval. That door would close behind me. And I remember the feeling that I had of, man, I want to be in that room. And what do I have to do to be in that room? What's going on behind those closed doors? And C.S. Lewis, again, calls this the temptation of the inner ring, the inner circle, as you might call it. And he says it's a lot like peeling an onion, that even if you get what you want, you peel that onion, there's going to be nothing left. Once you peel the whole onion, it's never going to fulfill you. And so unless you can break this attraction to being an insider, to be on the inside, they have the power, the social power that goes with that, it's going to be one of the defining things of your life. So unless you can break that, it's going to break you. And so that's one of the things I think we all struggle with professionally, especially.
Of course, you're so right about that, and it's true not just in government or media, but it's true in any organization. It's true in when you're in elementary school too, I suppose. And so you managed to break that. I suspect I haven't gotten a copy of the book yet, so I haven't gotten to the end. Maybe you say, and I'm still working on it. But yeah. How did your faith re-enter the picture here and deepen during this process?
Here's I think another anecdote that will illustrate this and make it real for anybody, no matter what they do in their professional lives. When the president got to the White House, he realized, I get to remodel the place. Now, Trump, a builder, he's like, I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to get really involved here. And he remodeled the Oval Office with the help of the First Lady. And one of the things that he did was he was searching all over the internet for the perfect wallpaper. And he finds it, and it's at this place called York Wall Coverings in Pennsylvania. We call him up and we say, hey, the president wants this particular wallpaper. They think it's a prank. They hang up the phone. So then when they realize, okay, it's actually real, they freak out because the wallpaper that the president wanted had been discontinued 3 years before. So they freak out, drop everything they're doing, and they make 96 double-sided wallpaper that the president wanted, got it to the Oval Office by dinner time that night. And the question was, why did they do this? Well, it's really obvious. It's for the president. It's for the Oval Office. It's for history. It's for something bigger than themselves. And in the Bible, it tells us anything that we do, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. That's Colossians 3:23-24. When we think about our work in that context, who we are working for becomes a lot more important than what we do. So whether you're in the White House or you're in a coffee house, whatever it is, if you're doing it for the Lord, your work becomes worship at that point. And so that's where we can find meaning in our work and how we can keep that allure of the inner ring at bay, because we remember who we're doing our work for.
Right now, go to hallow.com/Knowles. It would be easy to just toss all of your discipline to the side for the summer, but a life of greatness does not happen by taking the easy route. The Hallow app offers an incredible range of guided meditations and prayers that are designed to help you deepen your spirituality and strengthen your connection to God. With Hallow, you can embark on a journey of exploration, diving into different themes and types of prayer and meditation. From gratitude to forgiveness, each session offers a unique experience, sparking your curiosity and deepening your spiritual understanding. Choose different lengths of meditation to fit your schedule, whether you have a few minutes or an hour. With its user-friendly interface and hundreds of guided meditations, the Hallow app has quickly become a go-to resource for people seeking spiritual growth and healing. You can download the app for free at hallow.com/Knowles, Knowles. It allows you to set prayer reminders and track your progress. Hallow is truly transformative and will help you connect with your faith on a deeper level. Do not lose your prayer habits this summer. Maintain your peace and deepen your relationship with God on Hallow. Download the Hallow app today at hallow.com/Knowles, Knowles. Hallow.com/Knowles, Knowles for an exclusive 3-month free trial of all 6,000 plus prayers and meditations. I love that idea because a lot of people, we were just covering this story earlier today, they're checking out of the economy. Men are just not participating in the economy. Working age men, so something like 89% are looking for work or have work. That's really scary. 11% of men who are working age, they just don't want anything to do with it. There are all sorts of explanations for this, and some are economic and some are deeper. But I like the idea. Work is not just a punishment for the fall of man in the Garden of Eden. Work is also a remedy for the fallen condition of the world. And ultimately, you're working for your family in part, for your community in part, for your boss in part. But ultimately, this is for God. This is, I think of the group Opus Dei, which that lunatic Dan Brown, kind of makes into some crazy secret thing in the Da Vinci Code. But what does Opus Dei mean? It's the work of God. We're sanctifying ordinary labor, and we can all do that, no matter our station in life.
Well, what do we see God doing at the very opening of the Bible in Genesis 1? He's creating. And part of God's design for humanity is for us to mirror his character. And in work, we do that by being many creators ourselves. What an amazing opportunity to be a reflection of God's character in the way that we work, in the way that we devote ourselves to our craft and do it as we're doing it for God. I struggle with that a lot, especially after I left government. The day that Joe Biden was inaugurated president, I was standing alone in the empty halls of the CIA, walking around depressed because it was my last day there. And I was thinking to myself, how is anything I'm ever going to do in life going to be as important as this? And of course, it's my ego talking. But I'd had that power. I'd been at the center of that inner ring, and I didn't want to let it go. And not until writing this book that I really wrestle with how sinful that was and how wrong it was that I had placed the meaning in my work in the wrong place.
Of course. It's got to be a pretty heady experience. You're just standing there at the CIA and you think, well, I'm voluntarily giving this away. I'm curious, while you were still in government, what role did religion play in the Trump White House, in the agencies that you were overseeing? I know some of my friends who worked in the administration were mackerel snappers, some prominent Jews in the administration, some evangelicals, but how did you see faith shaping the government?
Well, in a lot of ways, I do think there were a lot of believers there. There's no question about that. On Ash Wednesday, you would see a lot of Catholics there with the ash on their forehead. You'd see, it was not uncommon to see people at their desks who had a Bible sitting on their desk. A lot of really faithful Jews were serving in government as well. So there was a lot of a tinge of faith, I guess, everywhere that you looked. The way that I saw it manifest itself the most was in policy debates around things like, you know what, it's probably not right that the government is threatening nonprofit, faith-based organizations' nonprofit status if they speak into divisive political issues of the day. We're not going to do that anymore. Or there's all this pressure now to use certain pronouns and, mandate. I mean, the State Department now, you don't even get to choose. They put your pronoun in your email signature, whether you want it or not. This ridiculous that we're compelling people to basically violate their sincerely held beliefs as a condition of employment in the United States government. And Trump would not allow that to happen. So some of these policy debates that we had, especially on the personnel side, faith was a huge part of those things. And we've seen Joe Biden certainly, reverse course on that.
Because I wonder, I've worked around politics and campaigns and things like that for pretty much my whole professional life. But I've never worked in government. I've never been a government employee. And I've wondered, on the one hand, you could see that experience weakening one's faith because you think, well, here we are, we're having the power, we're in it, we're in the heart of it, everything you've been describing. But on the other hand, you could think, wow, I have this immense responsibility on me. You could see it deepening one's faith. And I don't know, I'm torn between the House of Cards point of view, where they're all just psycho killers, pushing each other in front of trains, and the other point of view, which is, oh gosh, there's something bigger than me, and I need to acknowledge that.
Yeah, well, it can go either way. I've seen it go either way, and at different points in my own life, it went different ways for me personally. I think the main variable in that I've saw and certainly experienced in my own life was, can you surround yourself with people of like mind who have the guts to say to you in those moments where you're losing yourself a little bit in it, hey man, come on back over here. Let's not forget who we are. And that's really, me being from Alabama, and a lot of us in the Trump administration, it brought a lot of people who'd never served in government before. And so we were coming from different places around the country and losing that support system that you have. And people at my church here in Birmingham could not care less that I work for the president of the United States. It doesn't mean anything to them. And that's a good, healthy thing. And so I think the people I saw endure that experience and come out of the other side with a deeper faith were people who have that, support group around them.
Cliff, we got to leave it there, sadly, because I'm overtime as per usual. But everyone should go out and get the book, The Darkness Has Not Overcome, Lessons on Faith and Politics from Inside the Halls of Power. Cliff, thank you for coming on the show. I look forward to seeing you. I don't get to Alabama too often, but either there or D.C. or one hopes. Maybe there will be another Trump administration. We'll see. Maybe you'll end up back. Well, we'll wait. We hope, we wait, we see. These are theological virtues, to hope and have faith and have charity in the meantime and not get sucked up into the vicissitudes of power.